Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Sharmila Madam.
Good afternoon, Professor Suteta Joshi and Professor Meher Mistry.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Are we beginning the session immediately?
Hello, Neelam.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we start?
Yes, ma'am. We can start now.
Hai na?
Yes.
All students are almost there, I think.
Wait, I'll just cross check once and then we can start. I'll just cross check once and then we can surely start.
Yes, yes. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Slightly, it's getting slightly cut.
Yeah, I'm adjusting it.
Achha.
Now it's fine.
Yes.
Students, those who are presenting today, please make sure you keep the time limit in mind. Neela will also tell you the rules. Please listen to the rules carefully, okay?
Sharmila madam, 4 students are yet to come.
It's okay. Those
Okay,
who are present, we can start. Otherwise, it will be too late, no?
Yes, sure. So we'll start now. Okay. So, hello and welcome to our esteemed judges, Dr. Meher Mistry from Department of History and Professor Sucheta Joshi, the HOD of Department of Economics, and all our participants. I'm sure we all are fully refreshed, packed with loads of knowledge about vaccines by Dr. Chirmule, and good wishes from our director, Dr. Usha Mukundan ma'am, and principal, Mr. Himanshu Davda sir. So let's get warmed up for the beginning of our much awaited session. But before that, participants and judges, please make sure that each presentation lasts for 8 minutes and 2 additional minutes for question and answer session. Once you cross the 8 minutes bar line, you will be given a reminder about the same. So please make sure we all are constantly reminded of it in the interest of time. So without making you all wait much, let us get started and let's celebrate this National Science Day in a very wonderful manner. And let us all call upon our first presenter for today, Ms. Advaita Singh from first year, to present her paper with the title Yoga Sutras by Maharshi Patanjali.
Hello, ma'am. Can I share my screen?
Yes, yes. I'm making you co-host so that you can share your screen. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I've made you co-host, Advaita. Now you can share your screen.
I'll start with my presentation.
Yes.
So,
Neelam,
good afternoon.
you keep a check on time, huh?
Good
Yes,
afternoon to one and all present. I am Ms. Advaita Singh, a student of class FYBA. I'm blessed to address today's respectable crowd on the event of National Science Day with my PPT on the Yoga Sutras presented by Maharishi Patanjali. The topic of my presentation is basically from Indian philosophy. I've taken it from Indian philosophy. I got to learn about Indian philosophy in our first sem under the 6 orthodox schools of Indian philosophy, where my screen is not working.
I can see the screen.
Now I can see. So, yoga philosophy, it systematically deals with all levels of one's being, that is the state of mind, body, spirit, which one can never be separated with. And there are 5 more orthodox schools of Indian philosophy, that is the Samkhya philosophy, Vedanta, Vaisheshika, Nyaya, and Mimamsa. Under this, I'll be discussing only the yoga philosophy. And here I'll present the Yoga Sutras presented by Maharishi Patanjali. Now, talking about it, who was Sage Patanjali? Patanjali was an Indian sage who is believed to have authored or compiled the Yoga Sutras. Very little is known about him, and no one knows exactly where he lived, although it is estimated from the analysis of the sutras that it was in the 4th or 5th century. It is said that he came to earth in order to teach and share the knowledge of yoga. Despite the uncertainty about the time of Patanjali's birth, there are many myths around the nature of it. Some say that Patanjali fell to earth as a snake, a powerful yogini called Gonika. It is also said that Patanjali was an incarnation of Ananta or Shesha, the 1,000-headed serpent king, who is often depicted supporting Lord Vishnu. Patanjali is thought to have resided in the Gonda, a district of Uttar Pradesh, that was also where Buddha resided. This area was known as a center of Sanskrit study, basically. What are the Yoga Sutras which Patanjali has given us? So Sage Patanjali's answers given by him to his students over a period of time around 600 BC. It basically consists of the 4 chapters and 196 sutras that he gave to achieve the ultimate state, that is samadhi, moksha basically. The chapter 1 where deals with the samadhi pada, it describes the aims of yoga, that is meditation, and it contains 51 sutras. Chapter 2 is about the sadhana pada, and it describes the practice of yoga in one's life, and it contains 55 sutras. And chapter 3 deals with the vibhuti pada, which describes the power of siddhis that we can attain through yoga in our daily life, how we can practice it. And it contains 56 sutras. And the chapter 4 is about the Kaivalya Pada, which describes how we can attain liberation, that is ultimately the moksha, the ultimate reality of life through yoga. And it contains 34 sutras. Now, what is basically yoga according to Sage Patanjali? He has said that yoga is the cessation of the modification of mind, that is it can be explained as, he has given a Sanskrit quote for that, Tada Drushta Swarupa Aswathamanam, that is, then the seed abides in its own nature. We have been explaining philosophy in simple words that the whole purpose of yoga is to re-establish the true identity of self, that is the seed, which results in liberation, that is attaining moksha from the false identity, as well as from the cycle of birth and death, that is from this samsara to moksha, how we can attain through yoga. Then there are 4 classical divisions of yoga as given by Sage Patanjali, that is the Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, where the Raja Yoga is about the yoga of the spiritual kings. Jnana Yoga is what we should be questioning about why this is happening in nature. So when we question something, we get to know about that part. So attaining that questioning thing is basically Jnana Yoga, that is the yoga of wisdom. Which helps us to gain a lot of knowledge about many things. Then comes Karma Yoga, whatever knowledge that we have got practicing it in our daily life is what comes under Karma Yoga. So Jnana, after Jnana Yoga, we basically have Karma Yoga, that is the yoga of action. And lastly, that is Bhakti Yoga, yoga of devotion. It basically is like, it's like a cycle. You have got the Jnana, then you're practicing it in your karma, and this practice basically leads to Bhakti Yoga, that is yoga of devotion, devoting yourself completely to whatever you have learned and practicing it. Now, talking more about it, the Raja Yoga, it directly deals with encountering and transcending thoughts of mind. Jnana Yoga basically involves a deep exploration of nature, our being, by systematically exploring and setting aside false identities. It's about wisdom, introspection, and contemplation. Then Karma Yoga is basically mindfulness and remembering the levels of our being while fulfilling our actions or karma in the world. Being thoughtful about what we are doing, why we are doing, what is the purpose of we are doing, what are we gaining, basically. And Bhakti Yoga is devoting yourself to whatever Jnana and Karma you're doing. What is yoga philosophy has been explained very well by Sage Patanjali. He says that yoga is a metaphysics which is based on the dualistic principles of Purusha and Prakriti. Now, Purusha is a primordial consciousness principle and Prakriti is primordial matter principle. That is the seed, that is the self, is Purusha principle, which enlivens and brings awareness to the inner Prakriti, that is the inner self, and it evolutes in matter such as the body and mind. The Sama Yoga of Purusha and Prakriti arises the consciousness of individual who mistakes her or himself. Like, we should not keep ourselves, we should not consider ourselves separate from our inner self. It basically deals with that. Then what is the goal of yoga in our lives? That is, the seed abides in its own nature. What does it actually mean in depth? Yoga is a coherent system of practice which seeks to re-establish the true identity of the self who has become entangled with the material life or the matter principle in the samsara, basically. The immediate or the ultimate goal of yoga is cessation of modification. That is vrittis of the mind. Then what are the modifications of mind? Patanjali lists 5 categories of vrittis, that is the modifications of mind, in his sutra 1.5 to 1.1. That is pramana, that is correct cognitive process. Viparyaya, cognitive process of misconception. Then vikalpa, that is a process of conceptualizing abstractions. Then nidra, that is the state of sleep. And lastly smriti, the process of memory reproduction of previous impression, regaining our memory. How are the modifications to be seized? How are we practicing, basically? 2 requirements for nirodha or cessation of this modification. First is abhyasa and second is vairagya, that is detachment. Now, abhyasa deals with consisting of austerity, discipline, then faith, and it can be done with complete devotion without any break, leading a disciplined life. And vairagya, that is detachment, is like losing desire for things seen and things unseen. Basically, it is through a process of discriminative clarity, keeping ourselves away from this material world and believing completely in God. Like in vairagya, we do the devotion directly to God, and in abhyasa, that is practice, the devotion is to the society, and we do it through the karma yoga. Then what happens to the mind with practice and detachment?
I'm sorry to disturb you, but your time limit has been achieved.
Okay.
Yeah, you may still go on with the slides, but in a very quick manner.
Advaita, try to conclude, huh?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. So what happens to the mind with practice and detachment? What do we gain is the non-yogic and yogic, where the non-yogic deals with state of agitation, state of dullness, and state of distraction. Yogic is state of single pointedness and state of no modification, that is ekagra and niruddha. Then what is practice? Practice is basically, there are 2 sets of practice, Kriya Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Kriya Yoga deals with your tapasya, your study of scriptures, that is Swadhyaya, and Ishwara Pranidha, that is complete surrender to God. And Ashtanga Yoga consists of 8 limbs, that is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Prayathara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. What do we get out of this Kriya Yoga practice? It leads to Samadhi, that is absorption consisting of attaining to moksha, and minimizes the dvesha and klesh, the dosha that we suffer in life, fear of things, then attraction towards things, ignorance of the truth, leading incorrect life. What does Ashtanga Yoga do to us? As said before, it deals with 8 limbs. And what happens with the practice of Samayama? That is, it leads to, with intense practice, various siddhis or powers develop in the practitioner, which can be stated with the example of the knowledge of, it leads, the individual can gain the knowledge about the knowledge of body, steadiness of the body, calmness of mind, vision of the siddhas. And Patanjali warns against getting attached to the powers, and they become an obstacle to liberation of Kaivalya. Lastly, what is yoga according to Patanjali? So as said before, yoga is nothing but the cessation of modification of the mind, and keeping by practicing it through the Kriya Yoga or by detachment. And it leads, we can either attain Purusha or Prakriti by that. Here I conclude my PPT. Thank you. And sorry for exceeding the time limit.
Participant, please maintain the time, okay? 8 minutes for presentation and 2 minutes for question answer. Anybody has any query can ask. Judges, if you have any query.
What are the books that you have used for this Advaita?
Ma'am, basically the Yoga Sutra, for getting knowledge from the Yoga Sutras, I refer to the Kaivalya Dham website, where I got to know about Sage Patanjali, his life and his work. And then I refer to one more basically it was through internet only. I didn't get the Yoga Sutras book, through different research papers only.
Oh, okay, good.
Participants, please don't leave the meeting after presentation, okay? Because you have to fill the attendance form as well.
Judges, are we done with the question and answer session for this one?
Yes, I think we can move to the next paper.
Okay, sure.
Advaita, stop sharing, huh? So that.
Thank you so much, Advaita. Now we call upon Ms. Priyanshi Pandey from FY as well for our second presentation for the day, and her title is The Decision to Use the Atomic Bomb.
Priyanshi, I have made you co-host.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible enough?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Just a second. All right. Can I start?
Yes, you can start.
Yes, you can start the presentation.
Okay. A very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Priyanshi Pandey from first year Arts Department, and today I'm going to present a research paper by Henry Lewis and Simpson titled The Decision to Use the Bomb. The current slide shows an excerpt of the research paper by former Secretary of War Henry Lewis Simpson's article, The Decision to Use the Bomb, which appeared in Harper's Magazine in February 1947, which was roughly 2 years after the Hiroshima-Nagasaki case, which took place in the year 1945. on August 6th and 9th, respectively. The piece was intended as a response to mounting public criticism of the decision to use atomic weapons against Japan, including from highly respected public figures such as Albert Einstein. This research paper covers four main objectives, which are its introduction, a memorandum discussed with President Truman, a proposed program for Japan, and a personal summary by Stimson. The dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains among the most controversial events in modern history. In retrospect, however, it is clear that the reasons for dropping the atomic bombs on Japan, just like the later impact of nuclear technology on world politics, were complex and intertwined with a variety of issues that went far beyond the simple goal of bringing World War II to a rapid close. The following slide also shows a statement from the memorandum discussed, which terms the Japanese military leaders as terrorists. My question is if the label terrorist was appropriate. August 1945, Japan had lost World War II. Japan and the United States both knew it. Japan was split between surrendering or fighting to the end. I believe that as president, it was Harry Truman's decision if the weapon would be used with the goal to end the war. It is an awful responsibility that has come to us, the president wrote. However, once Japan surrendered, Truman wrote that my objective is to save as many American lives as possible, but I also have a human feeling for the women and children of Japan. In August 1945, it appeared inevitable that Japanese civilians would have to suffer more death and casualties before surrender. I personally believe the use of the word terrorist was a bit overdone. The next slide discusses the program proposed to Japan before the attack, which asks them to drop the war and surrender so as to avoid any further conflicts, casualties, and war. Further, we see a personal summary by Stimson in his research paper where he states that the decision was always very compelling and clear to him, and that a person who is vested with powers like him could not give any other advice or opinion to his chiefs. He also quoted in his paper that I felt every possible step should be taken to compel a surrender of the homelands and withdrawal of Japanese troops from the Asiatic mainland and from other positions before we had commenced an invasion. Next, I would like to answer in my own few words a few questions regarding if the attack was justified and if it is still relevant in the present days. Also, under any circumstances, could the attack have been prevented? 74 years have passed since the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Approximately 210,000 victims died, and another 210,000 people survived. The damage to their health has continued, consisting of three phases of late effects: the appearance of leukemia, the first malignant disease in 1949, an intermediate phase entailing the development of many types of cancer, and a final phase of lifelong cancers. Thus, the human consequences of atomic bombings have not ceased. Many people are still dying of radiation-induced malignant diseases. Maybe from the political aspects and questions regarding power and control, all leading nations were justified with their decisions. However, it was never and never will be easy to explain if it was fair to the casualties, the civilians, the women, and the children. Regarding the prevention of the attack, Japan would have been well aware that these were no ordinary enemies and their people at home were prepared to fight to the death. A few articles and papers say that there was a simple and obvious way to have avoided aerial bombardment of Japan, but the only agency that could have done it was the Japanese government. By early 1945, it should have been obvious, even to the war cabinet, that it was impossible to outfight the Allied forces and that debombing was unnecessary. Now, I would like to present the following references that I have used for the presentation. And lastly, I would like to conclude by quoting Mahmoud Darwish: "The war will end and leaders will shake hands. The old woman will keep waiting for her martyred son, and those children will keep waiting for their hero father. I don't know who sold our homeland, but I saw who paid the price." Thank you. Hello.
Yes, thank you, Priyanshi.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Priyanshi, does Stimson not make any in that paper? Was there any idea you got regarding the scientific research which America had done on the atomic bomb? And were there scientific reasons, like they wanted to really test the bomb and see how effective it was? Was science also there behind the atomic bombings?
Ma'am, the information that I found in this paper, no. It was basically all about Simpson's own perspective regarding the bombing, and there is also a part that I mentioned where he says that he wasn't uh, he wasn't able to convince people otherwise anyway. So, and he always found the idea very compelling. So it's nothing scientifically related in the paper. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we go to the next paper?
Okay, sure, we'll do that. Thank you so much, Priyanshi. Now, we'll call upon Alfia from FY for today's third presentation. Do we have Alfia here?
Yes.
Okay. Alfia, you may start your presentation.
Okay.
Alfia, I have made you co-host. Okay.
Hi, screen दिख रहा है ना?
We can see the screen. You can go ahead.
Hi, I am Sheikh Alfia, FYBL Psychology, C Division. My topic is optimism and pessimism in elementary school age children. Fisher and Lettenberg, 1986. ऑप्टिमिज्म पेसिमिज्म ज्यादातर अपने फ्यूचर के बारे में देखते हुए बताता है। जिस तरह हम प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन को देख के ब्राइट साइड बता रहे हैं, ऐसे ही कुछ लोग प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन को देख के डार्क साइड बताते हैं। लाइफ में उनके लिए क्या रखा है। विलियम जेम्स, optimism according to William James, optimism is norm. Evidence in support optimism bias can be found in number of recent studies. Smith, according to Smith 1983, according to Smith between 1975 and 1982, इस बीच में अमेरिका के स्कूल में स्टूडेंट से 3 क्वेश्चन किया गया कि वो अपनी कंट्री के बारे में आगे 5 साल में देखते हुए चीजें बुरी होगी क्या उससे अच्छी बेहतर होंगी। तो 44% पेसिमिज्म आंसर दिया। और फिर जब उनसे सेकंड क्वेश्चन किया गया कि पूरे वर्ल्ड के बारे में वो आगे देखते हुए क्या वर्ल्ड में चीजें बेहतर होगी उससे बदतर होगी, तो 55 to 60% पेसिमिस्टिक थे।
और जब इनसे थर्ड क्वेश्चन किया गया कि उनकी ओन लाइफ के बारे में, तो क्या सोचते आगे बढ़ते हुए, तो only 3 to 4% pessimistic थे एंड 80 to 90% ऑप्टिमिस्टिक थे। जब उनसे वर्ल्ड के बारे में और अपनी कंट्री के बारे में किया तो वो लोग का ज्यादा आंसर पेसिमिस्ट था, लेकिन जब अपने ओन लाइफ के बारे में उनसे पूछा गया तो ज्यादातर ऑप्टिमिस्टिक था। Medliner's term 1978, according to Medliner's term, optimistic is bias. अच्छी चीजें हमारे साथ होनी चाहिए, ये हम लोग, और बुरी चीजें दूसरों के साथ होनी चाहिए। पोलियन प्रिंसिपल, लोग अच्छी यादों को ज्यादा याद रखते, बुरी यादों को उससे कम। बुरी यादों की टाइगर 1978, according to Tiger, optimistic impulses is a biological product of human evolution. ह्यूमन इवोल्यूशन है कि हम ऑप्टिमिस्टिक सोचें, जैसा इंसान को सांस लेना जरूरी है वैसे। मेथड सेल्फ स्टीम फर्स्ट टेस्टिंग था, ऑप्टिमिज्म पेसिमिज्म सेकंड टेस्टिंग, पेयर पॉपुलैरिटी थर्ड टेस्टिंग सेक्शन। सेल्फ स्टीम 6 सब स्केल, मेजर 6 सब स्केल किया गया। बिहेवियर, intellectual and school status, physical appearance, attributes, anxiety, popularity, happiness and satisfaction. Peer popularity में स्टूडेंट को 5 उनसे कहा गया कि तुम अपने फ्रेंड के साथ खेलना चाहोगे, उनको 5 में से कितना नंबर देना चाहोगे। तो किसी ने उसको 5 में से 4 दिया, किसी ने 5 में से 3 दिया। तो वो लोग का आंसर, किसी ने कहा मुझे इस बच्चे के साथ कुछ खेलूंगा, किसी ने कहा मुझे परवाह नहीं कि मैं इसके साथ खेलूं या नहीं खेलूं, किसी अगर मेरे पास टाइम रहा तो मैं खेल सकता हूँ। एंड एक्सप्लेन एंड रिजल्ट, जर्नल सक्सेस पता, स्टूडेंट की जर्नल सक्सेस के बारे में पता चला। ज्यादातर मेजॉरिटी ऑप्टिमिस्टिक की थी, मिनिमल पेसिमिस्टिक जर्नल सक्सेस। गर्ल्स बॉयज में डिफरेंस नहीं था और ना ही एज डिफरेंस था। ऑप्टिमिस्टिक एंड पेसिमिस्टिक दोनों सेपरेट पोल्स है, एक पोल्स में वो मेजर फैक्टर नहीं हो सकता, दोनों सेपरेट पोल्स है। पेसिमिज्म एंड सेल्फ स्टीम स्ट्रॉन्ग नेगेटिव और स्ट्रॉन्गर है। ऑप्टिमिज्म सेल्फ स्टीम पॉजिटिव एसोसिएशन बिटवीन दोनों बीच। फाइनली children optimism pessimism about the distant future not related to current social। आगे देखते हुए करंट सोशल से हमारा पॉपुलैरिटी हमें पता नहीं चलती है। करंट डिस्टेंट फ्यूचर के बारे में। करंट popularity is not major. Thank you.
Hello, Alfia. A very nice paper, a very interesting topic you have taken, first of all. Congratulations for selecting this. So, I have a
Thank
small
you.
question for you, and that is in
Yes.
the beginning, you talked about an experiment that was conducted among the children, right? Among the students.
Yes.
So, they have given answers about the world, all pessimistic answers. And when they were asked about their personal future, they have given a very optimistic answer. Can you explain what do you find in that paper, the reason behind the difference of this optimistic and pessimistic attitude in relation to world and the self? What did you find as a
जब
reason? हाँ,
जब उन स्टूडेंट से अपने बारे में पूछा गया, वो लोग ज्यादा पॉजिटिव थे,
वही
जबकि
क्यों
वो
थे?
लोग
आपको उसका रीजन उस पेपर में मिला क्या? ये मैं पूछ रही थी आपसे। ये आपने जो कहा वो बराबर है, लेकिन वो क्यों हुआ है ऐसे? ये
Yeah.
आपको उस पेपर में कुछ रेफरेंस मिला आपको उसके बारे में? ये क्यों ट्रेट दिखाई देता है बच्चों में, स्टूडेंट्स में?
I also wanted to ask the same question. It was so interesting to know. अल्फिया, may I help you? मैडम क्या पूछ रही हैं कि
यस यस मुझे
समझ आया ना आपको क्वेश्चन?
हाँ हाँ मैम, यस मैम।
Yes.
Probably you can study deeper, Alfia, and next time please come up with the answer. So we are interested to know.
यस
But
मैम,
a
थैंक
very
Suchita ma'am,
interesting paper.
hello,
Yes.
Chinmay here.
Yeah,
Uh,
hello, Chinmay.
Yes, may I help her to explain? I think she knows the answer to that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. Alfia, you were explaining optimistic bias, right?
यस
हाँ, तो optimistic bias क्या है?
हमें अच्छी चीजें ज्यादा हमें हमारे बारे में हम अच्छा ज्यादा सोचते हैं और दूसरों के बारे में कम है कुछ ना।
Yes, so maybe you could look into that and that would help you explain the results of that paper.
I think we understood that, and shall we go ahead then to the next paper?
Yes, ma'am. We'll move on to the next presenter today. Thank you so much, Alfia, for your wonderful presentation. I would now like to request Miss Pooja Bamne from the second year to present her paper, and her title would be Yoga, a Solution to Overcome Stress.
Pooja is not there, I
Yeah, I
think.
think we do not have Pooja here, so we'll move on to the next participant. Do we have Preeti here? Preeti Yadav?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. So, Preeti, I would now request you to come up with your presentation, and Preeti's title would be The Evolution of Empathy. Yes, Preeti, you may start on.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
Can I share the screen, please?
Yes, Preeti, I have made you co-host. You can share.
Okay. Is the screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is visible.
So, ma'am, just a second, I need to put this.
Block your notifications.
Ma'am, is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Is visible.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Good afternoon to one and all, respected teachers and all my dear friends. I'm Preeti Yadav from FY BA Psychology, is here to present a research paper on the very special occasion of National Science Day. I'll start my presentation. My topic I'll be discussing is putting the altruism back into altruism, the evolution of empathy. It was given by Franz B.M. Wald. He is a
he's a very famous Dutch criminologist and an ethologist, and this paper was published on June 5, 2007. So when we talk about altruism, it is an unselfish concern for others' well-being without any motivation, where we intend to help others. It is very similar to pro-social behavior. Why do we do this, or why do we perform altruistic behavior? It makes us feel better, and it is a social norm. And we are helping ourselves. When we are helping others, we are helping ourselves reaching our outcome goal. We can understand this concept by a very easy example, which is like when we are just driving and we see someone's car is technically not working. We'll go out and help them without any outcome in our mind that we'll get something back. So this complete process is a reciprocal trait. So there are three kinds of altruism. One is altruistic impulse, where you spontaneously you'll help the person without expecting any outcome or any benefits in our mind. As I gave the example of the car, we are just going and helping the person. Then it is learned altruism. Here you're conditioned to help others because of good outcomes. In your mind, it is there that you'll get something in return. So you're just conditioned and you're helping the person. Then intentional altruism is here you're seeking favors in return, thinking that favor will be returned. It is like give and take process. Actually, this research paper speaks about how altruism was defined as in selfish behavior, where you were just helping other, or you were intent to help other for some motivation of getting something back. But then I'll be discussing how altruism is an altruistic behavior, where it shows that we have empathy and we feel the pain here, so we lend our hands to help others. So now we'll be discussing what is empathy and why an organism feels it. So empathy is basically ability to feel and understand the feeling of others. For example, if we see someone crying, we'll make sure we'll ask that person, why is it happening? We are feeling the pain and the emotion that is going on. That's the reason why we are more concerned. So there are three levels. One is emotional contagion, sympathetic concern, empathic perspective taking. So in emotional contagion, we are more concerned about how the person feel and what the person must be thinking. The cognition process, the cognitive thinking that is going on, and it is mostly concerned with thoughts and understanding and intellectual process. And when we come back to sympathetic concern, it's more concerned about where one shows that we understand others people's feelings, especially the problems. An example can be an adult chimpanzee lost his life just to save a human being. So that person understood the chimpanzee understood the feelings of the person, and if there was a problem where that person wanted some help, and that help was provided by the chimpanzee. And when we come back to empathetic perspective taking, it is very self-oriented feeling and response to perceiving another in need. Here you're putting yourself in that person's shoes, and you're feeling and understanding what the person is going through. And now we'll be looking towards perception action mechanism. These are the underlying mechanisms of empathy. So it was proposed by Preston and Dayvall, and here they spoke about there is a great similarity or familiarity of subject and object. The accuracy of the state matching is very high. An empathetic response is very similar to the similarity, social closeness, familiarity, and positive experiences. And this model also explains why animals are capable of empathy sometimes, while in same organism, it is completely absent. Like there are some organisms which show empathy, and in some organism, it is very absent. For example, there was some very real life example, like chimpanzees killing each other. These are the same organisms killing each other. Then monkeys killing over 200 dogs in Maharashtra as revenge. And when we come to the Russian doll model, this is very similar to the PAM perception action mechanism. It is similar of empathy can be seen in empathy. This is how Russian doll model it is one over the other and so on. Similar layers of imitation and empathy can be seen and understood. So empathy must bring layer in emotional contagion. The most basic layer is that imitation's basic layer is motor mimicry. Then if we go a little ahead, like we can see here, when we go a little ahead, there is sympathetic concern, which is empathy and coordination, shared goals, that is imitation respectfully. Finally, the outermost layer that is there is the more recent step in evolution is true imitation and empathetic. And when we is the screen working now? And when we come to the conclusion, this complete research was all about how altruism was only a motivation to gain something back in return or expecting something in. But the conclusion is that we perform this behavior for inherent social connection and not only for rewards, which is extrinsic. And altruism, then the second conclusion which can be derived is that uh, altruism is an evolved mechanism, and we need to see there are some other animals which are close to us and they show the same altruistic behavior. And if we continue doing, when we continue lending our hands, helping others, it is very beneficial in future for us as human beings. And as we spoke about how altruistic is just about behavior or not only helping others, but it is very important because it shows the impulse of helping each other. Okay, thank you so much. I would like to conclude.
Judges, moving on to the question and answer session.
Thank you, Preeti. It was a very well explained presentation.
Exactly. Yes. No question from my side.
Yes, we can move to the next presentation.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, Preeti. And now I would like to call upon Mr. Arvind Tiwari for his next presentation on the topic Eyewitness Testimony, the influence of the wording of a question. Do we have Arvind here? Okay.
Yes, Arvind is there.
Yes, good afternoon.
Arvind, I have made you co-host.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, all my respected teachers and my friends. So my topic is eyewitness testimony. Yeah. So my topic is eyewitness testimony, the wording of the questions, how the wording of the question influence the memory of the eyewitness witness. This research was conducted by Elizabeth Loftus and Advaita Singh in 1924. What is eyewitness testimony? Eyewitness testimony is a legal term. It refers to an account given by people of an event they have
Arvind,
witnessed.
can you increase your volume?
Okay, ma'am. Just a moment. I'm audible, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, audible.
Yeah. Okay. So what is eyewitness testimony? Eyewitness testimony is a account a bystander or victim give us in a courtroom. For example, they may be required to give a description at a trial of a robbery or a road accident someone has seen. And what is wording of the question is how the phrasing questioning during an investigation could alter the witness testimony or response. You can see the need for the studies is the present research demonstrate the influence of very small changes in the wording of a question in a situation in which subject view a film of an automobile accident and then answers questions about events that did and did not occur in the film. More participants remember a non-existent broken headlight in the group that was asked, did you see the broken headlight rather than did you see? We'll see in the experiment part. Okay. So the subject will view a film of a multiple car accident and then answer questions about event occurring in the film, such as, did you see a broken headlight? A containing indefinite article. And for example, the second question, did you see the broken headlight? The question containing definite article. What is the difference between the and a, and why should use of these articles produce differential behavior on the part of eyewitness? On this topic, a number of psychologists have recently had something to say. If a speaker has already seen a particular item and assume his listener is also familiar with it, will use the article. For example, when a young man wants to borrow the family car, he will say, can I have the family car tonight? These notions have already been successfully embodied into an elaborate model of human memory called HAM. It stands for Human Associative Memory. When HAM sees a noun preceded by the, it looks for the referent of that term in its memory. These are the results. Table 1 present the percentage of yes, no, and I don't know response for both. The major finding here was surprisingly interesting. The questions containing A, like, did you see a broken headlight, was led to many I don't know responses. And the questions containing the definite article, was led to yes or no responses. You can see here in the table, as you can see, these are the questions that were things that were present in the experiment, and these are the things that were not present in the experiment. The questions containing A led to 51 responses in I don't know, and the questions containing the in not presenting the things that did not occur in the film, they were more confidence, 72, rather than in compared to A definite article. The film shown in a small room at the library depicted, this was the second experiment. The film shown in a small room at the library depicted a minor collision between a man who was backing out of a narrow space in a supermarket parking lot and a woman pedestrian who was carrying a large bag of groceries. The total time of the film was less than 4 seconds, and the accident itself occurred within a 2-second period. And the result was table 1 present the percentage of yes, no. The effect of experiment 1 are replicated. When an indefinite article was contained in a question about an item that was not present in the film, yes response occurred 6% of the time. When the definite article was used, yes response occurred 20% of the time. I don't know response occurred overall more often when the indefinite article was used, 47 versus 15% for the definite article. You can see here the table. The research reported a major finding was that questions containing an indefinite article led to many more I don't know responses. The phrase a broken headlight could refer to any of the number of headlights which a subject might have seen, since it is impossible to inspect all of the headlight carefully in the time allowed for doing the accident. It is impossible to be sure that no headlight was broken. In this case, then the subject must deal with uncertainty about whether a broken headlight actually existed at all, and a large number of uncertain or don't know response resulted. Questions containing definite article. On the other hand, did you see the broken headlight more strongly implies the existence of a specific broken headlight, and the subject need not deal with the uncertainty about whether the broken headlight existed or not. This finding may also indicate that it is easier to be confident that you have not seen some specific item than to be confident that you have not seen any instant of a general class of items. The picture. The conclusion. Many people think that memory works like a recording device. You just record the information, then you call it up and play it back when you want to answer questions or to identify image. But decades of work in psychology has shown that this isn't true. Our memory are constructive. They are reconstructive. Just because someone thinks they remember something in detail with confidence and with emotion does not mean that it actually happened. Thank you.
Again,
Arvind,
very
can you go back
interesting.
to the slide that you skipped?
Sorry, ma'am. Could you repeat your questions?
You, for want of time, I think you skipped one slide. Can you just show us that one
Okay.
before the conclusion one?
Sorry,
Yeah,
ma'am. Sorry.
this one.
Yeah. This is the data collected in USA. The Innocent call as the Innocent Project. More than 356 people. More than 356 people have been exonerated by DNA testing who were wrongly convicted in USA alone. It is estimated that out of all these cases, more than 70% were due to eyewitness misidentification. The number of India for this wrongful convicted is 52%. And in USA, around 356 innocent people get convicted just because of this faulty eyewitness testimony. And the average year they spent in prison because of misidentification was 13 years, collectively around 4,000 years.
Will you just go one slide behind? One slide behind? I just have a doubt about the last statement discussion. Yeah. Can you just explain a little bit about the last finding? Like, no, not that. This finding may also indicate that it is easier to be confident that you have not seen some specific item than to be confident that you have not seen any instance. Okay. Not clear about this part.
Like,
Can you elaborate a little on this?
can you repeat your questions, ma'am? I couldn't get it.
Yeah, my question was in the discussion, the second bullet point, you can,
Yes.
this finding may also indicate is that point. I would like to know a little bit detailed answer on this. I'm not clear about this particular statement. Shall I repeat my question, Arvind?
No, I get it. I'll get it.
Arvind,
Yes, ma'am.
you understood the question, no?
Yes. Ma'am, I'll get back to you on this. I think I need more research on this.
No problem.
Yeah.
But a very interesting subject.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very interesting paper that you chose to work on.
Are we done for this presentation, ma'am?
Yes, we can go to the next paper.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Arvind. Next, I'd like to request Anuja Kori to present us her work. And her topic is planting false childhood memories in children, the role of event plausibility.
Anuja, I have made you co-host.
Yes, ma'am.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, it is audible.
Good afternoon, respected teachers and my fellow mates. Today I am presenting Planting False Childhood Memory in Children by Kathy Pesdek, Daniel Hodge, 1999. Here's a little glimpse of my research paper. Out of 15 studies, for 18 out of 15 studies found that when preschool children are compared to older children and adults, significant differences in the degree of suggestibility of memory has been reported. Which means younger children are more vulnerable to suggestibility. So can we completely rely on them as witnesses in court? Or under which kind of situations child's memory is more suggestible or vulnerable? Kathy and Hodge in 1999 attempted to plant false memory in children and found in which situation did the child's memory is more vulnerable. Under this domain, previous studies have found that 6 of the 24 subjects reported either full or partial memory. For the false event, in 1999, in 1995, Loftus and Pickrell administered an experiment on 24 offspring or younger siblings in which they suggested that they had been lost in shopping mall. In another study by Hyman, Husband and Billings, 20 to 25% of subjects recalled false event as real. The candidates were this indicates the younger children are more vulnerable, but this doesn't mean child's memory is not accurate. It was reported that events will be suggestively planted to the degree that the suggested event is plausible and script-relevant knowledge exists in memory. Child's memory can be suggestively planted only if script-relevant knowledge exists in memory. In this study, 2 age groups, 5 to 7-year-olds and 9 to 12 years old, were asked to read descriptions of 2 false plausible event and 2 false implausible event of being lost and receiving rectal anemia. Generally, small children are not aware of rectal anemia or have less knowledge of it and have more knowledge about being lost by different sources like stories, etc. 14 children result shows that 14 children recalled false plausible and 14 children recalled false plausible event and very less, which means 4 children recalled false implausible event. Here, younger children were more vulnerable to suggestibility. We already have some memories in our brains. So when we read some description related to it, our brain search similarities between them, and the more similarities and overlap results in recalling false event. If false events judged as true, related events can be transported to memory for the suggested event and can be falsely recalled. Gentner and Collins referred lack of interference, where we believe it if that happened, we would have remembered it. For example, if a child did not know what an anemia is or how it is administered, they have likely to make lack of interference. This results more the plausible events are more likely is to be planted. Thank you.
Anuja.
Yes, ma'am.
So, after reading this paper, what is your opinion? Can children be considered as eyewitnesses, or should they be considered as eyewitnesses for testing? Because if such childhood memories can be planted, how accurate can be their testimonies, or are they accepted in courts?
So can you repeat, ma'am, can you repeat your question?
My question is that since false childhood memories can be planted in children, in case of some legal matters where children are called to court to testify, should their testimony be considered?
So according to me, their testimony should be considered, because plausible events are more suggestible. So that's why I think children should be considered.
But if they are planted memories of events which are plausible but that did not happen and can convict somebody, say for example in some child rape case,
I think it's a very subjective question. It's depend on the case.
okay, thank you very much, Anuja.
Welcome, ma'am.
Shall we go to the next participant?
Yes, ma'am, sure. Thank you so much, Anuja, for your wonderful presentation. I'd like to request Sai for his next presentation. And his topic would be personality trait structure as a human universe.
I'm not prepared.
Hello,
Okay, he says that he's not prepared.
who is this?
Sai.
Sai, okay. Sai, may I know why you are not prepared?
Would you like to present later?
Yes, ma'am, it's okay if I'll present later. It's okay for me. It's okay with me.
So we will announce your name at the end, okay? By that time you prepare. Correct?
So
I would like
Sai,
to back out from this. I have not prepared well enough.
It's okay, you could try. You have a PPT ready at least?
Bits and pieces of the PPT are still remaining to, I still need to conclude my PPT.
It's
But
okay. Whatever preparation you have done, with that also you can present. At least you will learn something. We are fine with whatever preparation you have. Would you like to present at the end? Tell us.
Sharmila madam, I think we will announce his name. If he is prepared, he will present. What do you say?
It's okay. I just wanted to know
Yeah.
whether he wants to.
Yeah. Shall we go to the next step?
okay, so we'll do that. So next we have Miss Komal Pandey from the first year, and her topic would be physical punishment and mental disorders. Results from a national representative US sample. Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible? Yes.
You're audible. You can go ahead.
So my topic today is physical punishment and mental illness. The given research investigated possible links between harsh physical punishment in absence of more severe child maltreatment and access 1 and 2 mental disorder in adulthood. There has always been an unconscious understanding or exception that aggression and delinquency as well as mental disorder are associated with physical punishment. This representative of physical punishment and proportion of mental disorder in the general population that may be attributed to physical punishment. A survey was conducted with a representative US adult population sampled aged 20 years old between 2004 and 5, and face-to-face interview was conducted by trained interviewers of US Census Bureau. Family history of dysfunction, Axis 1 and 2 disorder were assessed by Adverse Childhood Experience Study, Alcohol Use Disorder and Associated Disabilities Interview Schedule, respectively. Axis 1 disorder includes depression, major depression, panic disorder, social phobia, specific phobia, generalized anxiety disorder, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and many more. Axis 2 disorder includes two types of disorder, that is cluster A and cluster B. Cluster A includes cluster B includes antisocial and borderline narcissist, etc. The shocking results show that increased level of education and income were associated with increased level of physical punishment. Individuals with family history of dysfunction were more likely to experience physical punishment. Also, female compared to males were less likely to experience harsh physical punishment. Also, increased odds of individual personality disorder, for example, borderline narcissist, antisocial, cluster A and B, associated with harsh physical punishments. So the discussion from this survey was that from public health perspective, reducing physical punishment may help to decrease the prevalence of mental disorder in general public. It will also have to help to form strategies to reduce physical punishment, which also points to importance of positive parenting approaches. According to me, a more explicit statement should be that physical punishment, that is slapping, smacking, should not be used with children of any age. Thank you, ma'am.
Very interesting topic which you have presented.
Judges, do we have questions?
No
No
question.
questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Komal. And now the next presenter for today would be Ms. Sweta Pal, and her topic is New Education Policy, NEP of India 2020.
Yes, ma'am. Document. Ma'am, is this visible?
Yes, the screen is visible, but you're present. Yeah, now we can see the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So a very good afternoon, respected teacher and all my dear friend. Myself Shweta Pal and I am from SYBA. Today, I am going to give a presentation on new education policy. So new education policy approved by the Union Cabinet of India on 29 July 2020. The vision of new education policy is to bring transformational reforms in school and higher education system in India. The new education policy replaced the previous national policy on education 1986 and forms a comprehensive framework to transform both elementary and higher education in India by 2040. It focuses on pillars: affordability, accessibility, quality, and accountability. So there is a key principle of new education policy. There is an extensive use of technology in teaching and learning process, and it removes language barrier, increasing access for a Divyang student and educational planning and management. It emphasizes on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exam. Creativity and critical thinking to encourage logical decision making and innovation. So let's see the difference between the current and new education policy. So in current education policy, there is three major streams, but in new education policy, there is no hard separation of stream. The new education policy replaces the existing 10 plus 12 school system with 5 plus 3 plus 3, 4 school system. So the current education policy based on memorizing facts and it used to held once a year. So the new education policy based on core competencies and it will be held twice a year. In the current education policy, the degree certificate will be provided after completing the 3 years of education. So here there is a multiple option of 1 year of training and 2 year of diploma. And it is based on obtained mark, but the new education policy is based on 360-degree performance. So let's see the conclusion. As we can say that this policy is an essential for initiative the help in the all-round development of our society and current as well as whole. So the success of the new education policy will depend on how it is implemented. So therefore, we can say that India is the country with the youngest population, and in India's future will be depend on providing high quality education and opportunity in this year. So the intentional policy seems to be ideal in many ways, but it is the implementations where there lies the key to success. Thank you.
Sweta, can you tell the reference material, any article you have referred to, or any other, you can say, reference material from which you have got these points?
Ma'am, Ministry of Government, I have taken from there.
Ministry of?
Government side.
No, but you need to elaborate, isn't it? You need to give a list of them, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what's your take on this policy? What do you feel? Is
Ma'am,
it
it is
really?
positive. Yeah, ma'am, it is. I also feel that it is positive, positive for the student. Like it is a positive impact for the student because here we have many different types of things. Like we can choose a different stream if we want science. Then we can learn science also, arts also. So there is many benefit in this new education policy. We got many new things to learn.
On the front of feasibility, do you feel all these changes are feasible?
Yes, miss. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Shweta,
Yes, yes, miss.
do you come
Yes.
across any articles which were critical of the new education policy, and what problems did they envisage in implementation of the new education policy?
I think, ma'am, there is no and such thing which will be create a barrier to implement this new education policy.
I mean, did you also look at the other side? Did you find any articles which were critical in nature? Or you only looked at the government side?
Positive.
You highlighted the positive.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, only government sides.
Okay, I think next time you should look at both the sides.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Good presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Are we done with the questions, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sweta. Now, the next in line, we have Sejal Gupta from first year with her paper with the title Maze Performance of a Function of Motivation and of Rewards as well as of Knowledge of the Maze Paths. Are you ready, Sejal?
Sejal, are you ready with your presentation? You are not audible. If at all you are answering, you are not audible.
Hello, Sejal. Sejal, you are not audible.
Is she there in among the list of participants, or should we move to the next one?
Neelam, who is the next one?
Yes, ma'am. Since she is not audible, maybe we can move to the next. Next, we have Riya Shah over here. Can we ask her to present her work?
Hello, ma'am.
And now you are audible, Sejal.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing my screen.
Sejal, you are sharing your screen.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing.
1 minute. 1 minute. Actually, as you are not audible, so I made the next student co-host. So let me make you co-host again. Sejal.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Sejal, I have made you co-host.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sharing my screen.
Okay, go ahead.
Ma'am, am I audible? Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes, you are audible, clearly audible.
Okay, ma'am. I'm sharing my screen. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Sejal Gupta. So my topic is maze performance, a function of motivation and reward, as well as of knowledge of the maze paths. The research was conducted in the year 1930. Edward Chase Tolman is an American psychologist. In order to study latent learning, they studied rats by building a maze. Each group of rats had to find their way throughout a complex maze. This led to the theory of latent learning. Tolman divided three different groups. Group 1, reward. Group 2, delayed reward. Group 3, no reward. So in the group 1, reward, all the days they got food. And in the group 2, delayed delayed reward, they did not got reward for first 10 days and got reward for last 7 days. In the group 3, no reward, uh, they did not get any reward at any day. For group 2, they learned the map of the maze for the initial 10 days but had no motivation, so they took longer to cross the maze. From day 11, they got reward, that is more food, which gave them motivation to cross the maze faster than before. Dr. Elliot given their 4 points. First point is knowledge of the maze part. A deposit left primarily as a result of exploratory runs. In the present context, it can be considered as practically proportional to the number of such runs. In the motivation, the physiological states such as hunger, thirst, pain, etc. And the third point is the goal object actually provided at the exist. It appears now further that in order completely to explain the fourth intermediate variable resulting from this motivation and this actually provided goal object and also certain auxiliary condition must be introduced. If this fourth variable may be designated, the reward value of the provided goal object is the actual physiological appropriateness. It provided goal object the motivation, like for example, if hunger will be there, then food will be the appropriate. If thirst will be there, then water will be the appropriate. Second point is the seeming appropriateness in the goal object. Goal object. The introduction of this concept is required by such finding as that Mr. William that a goal object not actually appropriate. Third point is the degree to which the given goal object is expected. This concept is required to allow for the obvious fact that only after the new goal object had been experienced one or more time did it induce a change in main performance. The fourth point is the degree to which the given provided goal object may happen to be a substitute for some previously provided goal object, like brain mash to sunflower seed. This example given by Elliot, Dr. Elliot, learning from brain mash to sunflower seed, their error and times went up. In fact, they did more poorly than a control group which had sunflower seed from the beginning. They seem to be hunting for the lost mash. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sujal. No question.
Excellent subject.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Do we have questions anymore?
No questions from my side.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next participant for today. And that would be Riya Shah, Part 1 student, a case study on CSR in Nestle, Tata and ITC. I think we don't have
Riya Shri, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Yeah.
Riya Shri.
Ma'am, my topic differs whatever is been taught.
Huh?
Yeah, so Riya, we don't have Riya Shah in the meeting. Instead, next would be Riya Shri.
Riya Shri, what is the title of the paper? Neelam, Riya Shri's title?
Riya Shri's title is Augmented Reality in Education, Current Technologies and the Potential for Education.
Riya, is it your title, Riya Shri?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Riya, I have made you co-host, Riya Shri.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just sharing my screen. Let me know once it's ready.
Student, please fill the attendance. Neelam, you also fill.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so firstly, Riyasri, and I'm from SYBAF department. So I would like to commence my today's research presentation for this event with a very good evening to all the respected teachers and all the participants present over here. So the topic which I have selected for this classic paper presentation is about a technology which immensely started taking place and a term that enhanced the view of real life by overlaying computer generated content, and that is nothing but augmented reality or reality with certain enhancement, right? So being a bit informative about the author's details, so both of the authors of this research study are from Turkey, Europe. Though I haven't chosen that much of ancient paper, yet it is a classical, classic work that has some new and engaging concepts. So before going with the flow of the presentation, the current slide represents the synopsis of my today's paper to be presented, like the intro part and how the technologies take place in the AR systems and like that. So although if we see, then our natural world is three-dimensional, but generally we prefer to use two-dimensional media in education, as it's very convenient, we are familiar, we are flexible, and it is inexpensive as well. VR is a concept which majority of us are familiar with, like it creates a world of its own separate from reality and replaces the real world whole. But when it comes to the augmented reality, then it is basically a new medium and a combination of real scene and virtual scene, which is basically generated by a computer that augments the scene with additional information. So this paper provides an introduction to this AR technology and its possibilities for education. So the first question, or can say the author's first thought, was to consider which technology could assist in the creation of AR. And in the context of the same, I have mentioned in the next two slides. So firstly, augmented reality and virtual reality share a number of similarities in terms of technology. So according to their research, the most common augmented reality equipment includes displays, input devices, and tracking devices. Two of the most common types of displays used in augmented realities, which I have mentioned in this slide as well, are see-through and monitor-based display. So this is usually done with a slanted semi-transparent mirror. So whatever picture depicted in this slide are showing the equipment which probably get on a use to experience this AR technology, out of which the left hand side pic indicates video see-through head mounted displays which worn on the head or a part of the helmet, used for giving special effects and combining the real and virtual images. The next one is optical see-through head mounted displays, which is wearable devices, and it has the capability of reflecting projected images, right? Now the next devices they had talked about is handheld display. So it is a system generally displays a three-dimensional graph, and one of the example which they have mentioned in their paper, Sony has created smart AR, which is an integrated augmented reality system when using a camera on device. Okay, so this is these are the pinch gloves. Pinch gloves allow user to pinch and grab the virtual objects, right? So now coming to the core context of this paper, which is nothing but in the context of existence of augmented reality in education. So augmented reality in education can serve a number of purposes. It helps the student easily acquire, process, and remember the information. So AR in education helps students achieve better results through visualization in the subject matter. Like a picture is worth 1,000 of words, right? So instead of reading theories about something, students like us can see it with their own eyes in action. So the authors have used the term tangible interface metaphor in their paper. Basically it is a user interface which a person interacts with digital information through the physical environment. Now to continue, here is one of the example they provided regarding the existence of AR in textbook. So with AR, classroom education can be extraordinary and more interactive as well. So human memory doesn't forgive visuals easily, right? So here are some of the example of augmented reality in education. like in the classroom as well, which enables user to see 3D objects in the classroom, such as volcanoes, storms, and even DNA. And one of the heart shape, which I've mentioned in the current slide as well. So coming to the findings, so as per what they have mentioned in their study, from which I have found this information is display, computer input devices, and tracking devices are the most common augmented reality devices. And it also interesting to note that there were only around 200 million users of AR when this research took place. But after analyzing the current scenario, I found that AR experience is thriving as a significant trend. And it is estimated that by 2023, there will be around 2.4 billion augmented reality mobile users worldwide. So as a result of their research, they came to the conclusion that the educational experience provided by the augmented reality is unique. Like augmented reality has the potential to transform how we interact with technology, and it makes the impossible to possible. So these are some links to sources, research papers, articles, and other materials that the researcher used to construct this paper. Actually, out of these reference paper, one of the paper has talked about a movie named Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I would like to show a movie scene to assist for better understanding. So, ma'am, if you could permit, this is the movie. This was the movie actually.
He's going back to the. What the hell is wrong with Roger?
We can't see it.
Riyashri, you stop sharing the screen of your paper presentation and then share the screen which has movie.
Ma'am, my movie scene is not visible.
No.
No, it is not visible. You stop this PPT and then share, then we can see it.
Okay, ma'am.
Riyashri, start from the beginning movie.
Ma'am, is it visible?
It was, now it's gone again.
Okay.
Hello, Riyashri.
Yes, ma'am.
Mommy's going to the beauty parlor.
Stop this PPT and then share that video film. We can see your PPT, not that video film. It was visible once earlier.
Go to YouTube and share the screen, no? We can't see, we can only hear.
I think shall we go to the next one till she arranges the presentation properly? Sharmila madam, can we go to the next presentation till
Neelam, is there anyone else?
yeah, there is Vedanti, I think.
Vedanti, yes.
Yes, ma'am. We still have Vedanti next. Thank you, Riyashri. Now we'd like to request Vedanti Khandke for her next presentation.
Vedanti?
Yes.
I'm making you co-host, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Vedanti, I've made you co-host.
Okay. Ma'am, is the screen visible?
Yes, the screen is visible.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Ms. Vedanti Khandke, would like to present today on the topic, the life story and achievements of the renowned economist Alfred Marshall. So without taking your much time, here we go. Alfred Marshall was born on July 26, 1842 in Bermondsey, London. He was the second son of bank cashier William Marshall and Rebecca Oliver. He attended Cambridge University and later he became professor at Cambridge itself. He was a founder of the neoclassical direction in economic science. This timeline tells us about his life. He was born in 1842 in Bermondsey, London. In 1877, he married Mary Paley. In 1883, he became professor at Cambridge. In 1908, he retired, and due to deteriorating health, he died in 1924. Marshall experienced a mental crisis, so he gave up physics and switched to philosophy. He began with metaphysics and it led him to ethics. Gradually, it led him to economics. Even as he turned to economics, his ethical views continued to be a dominant force in his thinking. He published 5 books in his lifetime. First, Principles of Economics. Second, Economics of Industry. Third, The Pure Theory of Foreign Trade and the Pure Theory of Domestic Values. And fourth, Editions of Industry and Trade Principles. And lastly, Money, Credit, and Commerce. The main contribution of Alfred Marshall to economics is connecting the classical theory and marginalism. Principles of Economics is one of the greatest economic work of Alfred Marshall. To Alfred, economics was a science of human behavior. He formulated law of demand and law of supply. The aim of principles is to study the economic aspects of human behavior in order to derive the laws governing the functioning of the economic system. His specialty was microeconomics, the study of individual markets and industries. In this book, Alfred Marshall emphasized that the price and output of a good are determined by both supply and demand. The two curves are like scissor blades that intersect at equilibrium. Modern economists trying to understand why the price of the good changes still start by looking for factors that may have shifted demand or supply and approach they owe to Marshall. He studied the research topics, wants, utility, and elasticity of demand on land, on labor, on capital, on industrial organization. Distribution of national labor is based on labor income, profits of capital, rent on land. Human wants. Humans not only chase the large quantities, but also good qualities of products. As a man becomes developed, their needs and wants will also become subtle and various. Human desires are also affected by social activities. Psychologists have been studying the consequences of choice overload for quite a while. Popular books written by psychologists such as Barry Scott or Sheena Iyengar provide an excellent introduction to the concept of choice overload. When faced with more choices, options, people do not choose at all. Alternatively, they are not happy with their choice. The dish that the person at the next table has ordered looks better, and so on. Consumers' demand. All the desires and aspirations and motives of humans are known as human wants in economics. Consumers' demand. Consumers' demand governs manufacturers' demand. Marshall's opinion on this was a person's demand for a thing should always reference to the prices at which he would buy that amount and other amounts. The law of demand states as follows: the amount demanded increases with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. Economics of Industry. Economics of Industry was co-written by Alfred Marshall and his wife Mary Paley, who was also his former student. The main aim behind writing this book was to understand law of supply, division of labor, market fluctuations, and tenure of land in mere detail. They mentioned solutions stating the wages problems workers face. John Maynard Keynes on Alfred Marshall. Marshall arrived at very early age at the point of view that the bare bones of economic theory are not worth much in themselves and do not carry one far in the direction of useful practical conclusions. The whole point lies in applying them to the interpretation of current economic life. This requires a profound knowledge of the actual facts of industry and trade. Due to deteriorating health problems, Alfred left the university in 1902. In 1927, the staff of the University of Cambridge to study the works of Alfred Marshall had created Messalian Society. Among the first members of the society was a famous British economist, John M. Keynes, who wrote this journal this famous quote by Alfred Marshall tells us a lot. All wealth consists of desirable things, that is, things which satisfy human wants directly or indirectly, but not all desirable things are reckoned as wealth. The research was carried out by reading this following journals and websites for gaining an insight of Alfred Marshall's contribution towards economics, economic system, and government. Thank you.
A very good attempt, Vedanti. A very comprehensive paper, including majority of the work done by Alfred Marshall. Only one addition I would like to say here is when you are mentioning the law of demand, remember next time you have to mention ceteris paribus and then the law. That is, other things remaining the same. If you don't mention other things remaining the same, the law actually is completely invalid. So keep that in mind. And one more addition also, I can't resist myself being an economics student. Alfred Marshall was always a neoclassical economist. So that's why he is a, you can say, a link between the modern and the classical economists. That's all from my side, but a very good attempt by you. Which class you belong to?
First year BCom.
Okay.
Yes, very good presentation.
Yeah, very good presentation. True.
Is the movie available now, or are we moving to the last presentation?
Ma'am, could I share my screen? I apologize for that network issue. Okay, ma'am.
Sharmila madam, shall we go ahead with her presentation?
Reena?
That is her movie, or shall we stop here?
Neelam, is there anyone else?
No, ma'am, this was the last presenter.
Huh.
There
Can
was
you
one more
announce
on the
the
list.
names of those students who were absent once?
Yes, sure, I'll do that. Yes, Meher ma'am, we have one more in the list, but she's absent here. So
Huh?
that's why. Okay.
I think 4 students are absent.
Yes.
Can you announce the name of the absentees?
Ma'am, I'll send those to you in WhatsApp.
What about the boy who wanted to present but had is not fully prepared? Does he want to present?
He is not there in the meeting. He left the meeting. I see Sai was not there. Then Pooja is not there. And then Asma is not there. And one Riya Shah.
Riya Shah, yes.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Judges, these 4 students are absent. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Is Riya
Riya Shri,
sorry?
I am making you co-host. You want to present that movie, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I have made you co-host.
Ma'am, is my screen is visible? Ma'am,
It's
actually,
visible. You start from the beginning. It's showing in the middle.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, before starting this clip, I would like to give some glimpse that it was a movie. Like it was an American movie, and it was animated. Like it was a film which it was basically a first movie that uses certain aspects of augmented reality in the era of 1990s, and it grossed about like $300 million worldwide and becoming one of the highest grossing films of that year. And this was very much like here the virtual aspects has been depicted with the reality. So as you all can see as well.
Mommy's going to the beauty parlor, darling. But I'm leaving you with your favorite friend, Roger. He's going to take very, very good care of you. Because if he doesn't, he's going back to the science lab. Then it gets worse. Please, you're killing me, killing me. Stay up. Booga booga. Choose. Get some every time. You wouldn't have any idea where the rabbit might. Is that a rabbit in your pocket? You just happen to see it.
Ma'am, here basically the virtual objects are talking with the real objects. It means the whatever humans characters are there in this movie scheme, they are just talking with the whatever animation cartoons are there. And this was the core context which has been mentioned in their paper as well. They have taken the reference of one paper, and in that reference paper they have mentioned that how these kinds of stuff has been take place with this augmented reality aspects, this technology. So that's what I want to explain through my presentation, ma'am. That's what from my side, and apologize for this for that interruption. If you're having any question, then I'll be very happy to get answered.
No, it was a very interesting topic and a very nice presentation, and your cross-referencing was also very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, still if having any question.
No questions. You made it very clear how it can be used in education.
Okay, ma'am.
How already some books have started making use of such augmented reality. So we are also looking forward to exploring such options in the future for our students.
Okay. So if you don't have any further questions and no more participants left, can I request everyone to switch their videos on just for a second so that we can have a beautiful snap for today's event?
Neelam, you
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
propose vote of thanks as well, है ना? You remember, no?
Yes, I do. Participants, can we please turn on our videos?
Students,
Okay, so I think I'll take the screenshot. Can we have beautiful smiles? Oops, just a minute. Something's wrong over here. Please continue smiling. Yes, it's done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we make some general comments before the vote of thanks?
yes, I have to ask you to give the feedback, your results. I just reminded Neelam that she has to propose vote of thanks. You are always welcome. You should give the students the feedback, how they performed, correct? So,
Yes. Please go ahead, Meher, if you would like to start.
Sucheta, you can start first.
Okay. I will take this opportunity and only because I have to attend the exam committee meeting immediately after this. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, Meher, to speak first. Uh, Good evening, everyone. I thank at the beginning the RAC committee for giving me this opportunity to listen to so many different areas of knowledge. Otherwise, a teacher and a student of a particular subject sometimes restrict us to a particular stream of knowledge only. But such opportunities help us to widen our horizon. So thanks a lot once again for giving me this opportunity to listen to so many different subjects. I would just like to make some very general comments. Number one, please pay attention to the type of competition or the event is. It is a classic paper presentation event, and where you are supposed to take a classic paper when you are going to make a presentation. So it's not a general presentation competition on a topic. So please keep that in mind, especially those students who made a general, you can say that general presentation. If at all you're making a general presentation also, then make a reference to the papers that you're using. So here, I think the motive behind that is to motivate the students to read the genuine works, the original works in that particular subject. So that needs to be served. But apart from that, I would like to mention that some of the PPTs were having extremely systematic approach in their presentations, where in the beginning they outlined what exactly the speaker is going to speak in their presentation, such as introduction, then what exactly were the objectives of the study, what was the conclusion, what was the methodology of data collection and analysis. So that's the correct approach of making any presentation. Congratulations everyone for taking up such kind of a method, or we can say an approach towards the research paper. Secondly, I also liked few of the psychology students. They also have shown their research paper, actually, a glimpse of that. At least the first page of the paper, which gives us, of course, we believe you. That's not a case, but that gives, adds authenticity to your presentation. So that's a very positive step again taken by you all. But all in all, I would like to say that at your age, making an attempt so serious and so systematic definitely is a very, very positive initiative on each one of you who participated in this. So I congratulate you all, and I really express my optimism that you all are going to succeed with same systematic approach and sincerity in your other endeavors in life also. So wish you all the best. Over to you, Meher, and thank you once again. If at all you all allow me, may I leave the meeting because I have to attend the exam committee meeting immediately.
Yes, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for giving your precious time out of your busy schedule. Hats off to you for judging so many events today.
Goodbye. See you on Wednesday.
You can mail the judging sheet to
it's
RAC.
ready.
Okay.
I'll be will you just share the email ID? Okay, the same email ID that on which you have shared me the.
Yeah. Still,
okay.
I will share in.
No, I will be immediately sharing that with you.
You can take your time, no issues. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you
everybody.
very much. Bye.
I think Professor Sucheta has more or less covered up a lot of points, which I should have also congratulated you all on. I'm first of all very thankful to the RAC for giving me this opportunity to listen to all you young students presenting. Many of you are in FY and some in SY. So in a way, it is really commendable that at such a young age, you all have managed to come up with such interesting topics and dealt with them in such a systematic manner. And some of you have paid attention to a lot of details which even senior research scholars miss out. So especially I would like to comment this paper on augmented reality, because it went about things in a very systematic manner. And although it took up one of the papers, it also tried to go into other papers delving into the same matter and tried to explain things even with the help of other papers. So that is also a very good approach, although this competition was talking about one classic paper and explaining that classic paper, but that approach is also worth looking at and worth taking. So a big congratulations to all the students. And I understand that some of the subjects of humanities do not really have this concept of a classic paper. And therefore, some students came up with more general topics. that is fine, as long as you also add in a lot of your references and citation, which you all have done. Some of you made such fantastic PowerPoint presentations. Visually also, they were quite appealing. So I commend those presentations, especially I think the first one on yoga was really visually appealing. All in all, it was a fantastic attempt made by you students at this young age. I know it is very difficult. Some, as you can see, got jittery and dropped off also because of the pressure that it all created on you. But your optimism, your positive approach, your systematic presentation has really bowled us all over. So hats off to all of you students. And I must also congratulate Professor Chinmay Bapat, because he seems to have really mentored these students quite thoroughly. So thank you, and thank you for all these wonderful papers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharmila, for the opportunity. And thank you, Neelam, for a very nice
Thank you, Mayor Madam, for giving your precious time out of your busy schedule. I also liked the presentations very much. I was really happy when I listened to all the presentations. A few things I would also like to point out as the organizing committee member of the organizing committee. Students, you need to be careful about language aspect as well when you are making presentations. Some of you have made mistakes in spellings, pronunciation, as well as one of the student. I am just pointing out so that you can improve. There is no intention to discourage you. Okay, my intention is to encourage you to present better next time. Okay, like out of 18 out of 15, I noticed someone, I don't want to name that student, 18 out of 15. So it should be either 15 out of 18 or 18 out of more than 18, correct? So some such type of mistakes shouldn't be there. Because when you are making presentation, people are judging it, they notice all such mistakes as well. And I also appreciate Professor Chinmay Bapat for mentoring the student, because most of the students from psychology, and as I am a student of psychology as well as literature, so I really appreciate the mentoring, and I also appreciate the mentee because they have also taken interest and done wonderful presentation. FYBA student, most of the students were from FYBA. 1 or 2 students were from SY. So FY students, being the freshers, made this program successful. So I am really thankful to them as well. Now, Neelam, you can propose formal order.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear judges. I'm sure the participants gained a lot under your guidance. A learner always needs a guide or a mentor to constantly improve and motivate. And you both definitely were the best ones to do so. Thank you so much for that. I'd like to thank Sharmila ma'am and other teachers for pulling out this extensive task of planning this event and executing the details. Also, thank you to each and every one of our participants today. We all understand how difficult it is to manage time for making the presentations, preparing, understanding them apart from college curriculum. You did a great job, and hope you all will remember this event for a long time to come. And do remember that this competition may have a winner, but when the goal is learning and growing, we all are winners equally. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neelam, for assisting me in organizing the program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Can we leave the meeting now? I mean, Mayor Madam.
Yes, thank you. Where should I email the copy of the file?
This you can email to RAC.
RAC, okay.
rac@rjcollege.edu.
Okay.
Okay.
RAC at
rjcollege.edu.
Okay.
edu.in.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Meher ma'am, the email ID is in the chat box as well if you want.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. So I should end the meeting now, correct?
There is a reconnecting thigh chat.
Hello? Mayor, you are saying something?
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, madam. Devraj sir, thank you for joining. Can I end the meeting? Devraj sir. Hello. Hello, Devraj sir. Am I audible? Devraj sir. Hello, Devraj sir.